Hello and welcome to a video that entails the review of a 10,000 kilometer test with this VW Amarok. But first, if you know what Cars.co.za does, we have lots of cars for you to choose from online. So take a look at our online classifieds. If you're in the market for a Bakkie, we have loads of those, and we've got loads of cars, over 70,000 of them for you to choose from. So let me know in the comments if you're in the market and we will help you choose something. But right now, let's get on with it. The review of 10,000 kilometers with my VW Amarok. Let's go.
Power slide into the DMs. WhatsApp the dealer directly from our site. Less phone calls, less awkward.
Who am I?
Whoever you are, with budget you could save $420 per month.
What we have here is the 2-liter turbo diesel 154 kilowatt style model. I think this is kind of the pick of the range if you're in the market for the Amarok. I think the V6 is a little bit expensive, and to be honest, this has all the features that I've ever needed in a Bakkie or a car actually. I have Android Auto, I've got heated seats, full dual zone climate control, leather everywhere, a really big infotainment screen, 4-wheel drive, lockable rear diff. There's very little in here that I can see that it's missing. Leather upholstery up front as well, little wooden inserts if I want, electric windows all around. The only thing that I can really think of that's missing in this Bakkie is, you know, a closable load bay thing, one of those like retractable lockers. Hilux versions call them the roller shutter, the RS models. That's the only thing I really think this Bakkie needs. Otherwise, this is the perfectly spec and adequately spec'd Bakkie. To be honest, I am not a Bakkie person. I actually really dislike Bakkies. I hate being jiggled about, they're difficult to park, they're never really fast enough to overtake on the freeway. But I have found myself during the 10,000 Ks with this Bakkie going for the keys of it on most weekends, and that's very unusual. I'll leave the Bakkies to the rest of the team, they can play with them. I'll go for an SUV or a sports car or anything I can really get my bike in. But this thing, I think just the way this new platform from Ford and Volkswagen rides, and it feels so much more SUV-like, so much more comfortable and livable with, that I kind of keep going for the keys. And I did almost all of the 10,000 kilometers in here. The crew would use it for their shoots during the week every now and then I would kind of use it for almost every other day that the car was available. And like I say, very unusual for me to like a Bakkie, but I gotta say, I have liked having this Bakkie around. I think part of the reason why it's been so useful, apart from just the great ride quality of this platform, is that like on the weekends you can just throw stuff in the back. Like I mountain bike, so my bike is in there pretty much every weekend, and I can just throw something in there. My wife does a lot of gardening, so there's a lot of refuse that needs to go to the dump, and like we just throw stuff in the back and go to the dump. It's like that perfect lifestyle vehicle that you can use to do your lifestyle activity, whether it's surfing, mountain biking, I don't know, quad biking, motorbikes, whatever you do, whatever your sport is. But also you can still use it for that kind of utilitarian thing, like going to the dump or helping your mate move house if you have to. Maybe that's a reason not to buy a Bakkie actually, now that I think about it. Nobody wants to help move their mate's house. Now I know a lot of fuss was made in the initial Amarok about only having a 2-liter turbo diesel engine, but I found this adequate. 154 kilowatts, 500 newton meters of torque. That's been sufficient. I've had 3 bikes on a bike rack on the back. I've had 3 bikes over the tailgate. A lot of stuff I've taken to the dump. Look, I haven't towed a caravan and I haven't towed a massive trailer, but it doesn't feel underpowered in any way. And the fuel efficiency has actually been quite good. And after 10,000 Ks, this thing is averaging exactly 10 liters per 100. And it's getting more efficient the more I run it in. So if I just scroll through the menu here, so I can see 10,000 Ks done at exactly 10.0, But the last, let me get to it, the last 2,000 Ks has been done at 9.3 liters per 100. So you can see it's getting more efficient the more the diesel engine runs in. So your running costs are ultimately going to keep going down in this Bakkie when it comes to just putting diesel in. 10,000 Ks, I've had zero issues with this Bakkie, like not even a puncture. These all-terrain tires, they aren't noisy, they're pretty good off-road too, and I've really had nothing to complain about. The only real complaint that I've had has been with some of the electronic systems in here. So for instance, depending on the infotainment's decision, my phone will either connect or won't connect, and then I have to go into the menu and force it to connect. So that's a bit annoying sometimes. And then occasionally, like, my dials here will reset to like a factory mode, and I have to go back in and set them to the way I like them. But that's like once every, I think it's maybe done it 2 or 3 times the entire 10,000 Ks. But other than that, those are it. Like, those are the only electronic glitches I've come across. And that's pretty rare considering the average is about, in every 100 cars sold, there are 134 errors reported, according to, I think, the JD Power survey. So that's pretty good that in the first 10,000 Ks, I've had zero issues with it, and kind of testament to the Ford-Volkswagen alliance kind of thing to build this Amarok and Ranger. "10,000 kilometers in the front seat of this Amarok. Everything is still really well fastened in here. There's no weird like rattles or creaks or anything like that. You can see here the center console doesn't really move around. The leather on the steering wheel still feels really plush and new. The only thing that is concerning is this center armrest, which kind of moves around, but it did that from like kilometer 1, so I guess that's how they make them. Then there's like a slight bit of wind noise from the rubber here, but it's only kind of, you only notice it from about 100 to 110 Ks an hour. Otherwise, everything else in here feels like it's really solid and well put together. Those of you that know the center console, the Ford is slightly more practical and has a few more holes in places where you can store stuff in. You've just got the 2 cup holders here and the wireless charging bay up front. One thing that did interest me though, like a few months ago, one of the guys had my car and they scratched the leather at the bottom here, and you get that kind of like rough feeling of leather, but it seems to have like repaired itself. I don't feel it. I don't know whether self-repairing leather is a feature, but it's kind of repaired itself. I don't know, is that a thing, guys? Is it? Obviously, if you want a bit more in-depth into the interior, we have a full big Bakkie shootout from 2023 where we drag raced them. We'll leave a link to that in the description below. And then we also did some other tests like 0 to 100 to 0 and can it off-road, that sort of stuff. So check those out in the links in the description. But let's jump into the back here and I'll take you through some few issues. The rear seats of our long-term Amarok. So these were mostly used for camera gear, so things like camera bags, tripods, drones, anything just like thrown in here. And the seats don't really show any sort of scuffs or marks or anything like long-term wear, so that's pretty good. As for passenger space, you've got reasonable leg room. This is my driving position, so reasonable leg room. You do get these cool little pouches on the top here for like a phone if you don't want to hold on to it, or if you get a message immediately. And then you've got a pocket down here, air vents in the center, and then you've got a 12 volt and a 3-point plug, but no USB ports in the back here. Now that brings me to one of the issues with owning a Bakkie. Right, so what I have here is my laptop bag, and it has to live here because I can't throw it in the boot. So it's constantly like sliding around the back here, or I put it behind my seat and it still moves about. And this is one of the things that you have to deal with if you're going to own a Bakkie, is that your laptop bag or your shopping is kind of going to have to go here. So in order to keep it from like rolling around, you have to come up with your own sort of solution to that. So whether that's tying it down in the 3rd seat belt, or like locking it in against the center console here, that's your kind of decision. But you cannot leave it in the back there unless you've got one of those nice roller shutter doors, and even then it's still just going to roll about in the back there. So that is one of the minus points in the practicality department for a Bakkie. Right, so this is the Bakkie part of the Bakkie. I think as standard, it should have one of those roller shutters that you can lock here. And those for me are kind of key. You can get a canopy and you can lock it up and that kind of stuff, but that just limits your access to the side of the Bakkie and the tailgate. And I'll show you why the tailgate is super useful for someone like me, is because I have a mountain bike on standby. So what I do is I get my wife's towel, I hook it over the back there, and then I have this bike here, which I just kind of like throw there, and then with like a simple elastic band, I hook it onto the hooks in the load bay, around the bike, I make it nice and tight. Then I get my South African proof lock through the bike, locked, key with me, and then we drive, and I can get like 2, 3, sometimes 4 bikes there, and then we can go and hit the trails. And that is way easier than one of these like Thule tow bar racks and then mounting all of that fuss. This is just on and off we go. And if you're doing that like a lot, like I do, twice, sometimes 3 times a week, this is the simplest and easiest way to get bikes on and off the Bakkie. There you have it, the Bakkie review part of the Bakkie. Obviously we need to address the elephant in the room, and that is that you can get a Ranger for less money than you can this Amarok. But there are a few things that I like more on the Amarok, specifically these instrument dials here. I prefer having my speedo and my revs on either side, and I think that the way that the trip computer is displayed is easier to live with than the Ranger. But other than that, they are identical. Yes, the Ranger is better value for money, but the Amarok does have something about it. You know, the design is slightly different, and if you're purely choosing on value for money, the Ranger is the better one. But maybe you prefer the design of the Amarok, maybe you prefer the instrument cluster, maybe you just prefer Volkswagen. There's nothing wrong with either product. I think no one's going to judge you because you spent more on a Volkswagen if you like the Volkswagen. If you like the Ford, buy the Ford. In terms of backup, what do you get? Volkswagen offers as standard a 4-year 120,000 kilometer warranty and a 5-year 100,000 kilometer service plan, and those service intervals are 15,000 kilometers apart. It would have been really great to take this to 15,000. We're only at 12,000, but Volkswagen want their car back, so we have to give it back to them, I guess. Obviously with Ford, your warranty and your service plan are optional extras, but they are fairly inexpensive items if you want to purchase them. In the Amarok, the warranty and service plan are both extendable at an optional cost, but they are standard as I mentioned them. So wrapping up my time with the Amarok, 10,000 Ks in it, not a single problem. And I think what's great about living with something like this is that like I said, I've never liked Bakkies. I never go for the Bakkie keys when they're at the office. I always go for the SUV. And if I was in the market for an Amarok, I think this is the right one to get. The style 2-liter is the pick of the range for me. And this combination of Ford and Volkswagen making this Bakkie together is a really good collaboration. And that's something. And I think from now on, Bakkies are just going to get better and better. So the next generation Hilux will be better. Hopefully the next generation Mitsubishi is better, the Triton, and the same for the Isuzu. So now this kind of sets the standard for me in terms of how good a lifestyle vehicle a Bakkie can be. It's no longer that an SUV is a much better vehicle to drive. The Bakkie is now just as good on-road, it's just as good off-road, and practicality-wise, it's now probably easier to live with than ever. So the lines are more blurred than ever between SUV and Bakkie. And you've kind of got to make this decision, like, am I willing to accept the small flaws in practicality with a Bakkie? Like, where do I put my laptop bag? As opposed to an SUV, which has a boot. For me, it's really difficult right now. This Bakkie is so easy and so adept at being a lifestyle vehicle that I think I'd almost choose a Bakkie over an SUV right now, but only one of these Bakkies, like a Ranger or an Amarok. The other ones aren't quite there yet. So there it is. There is my 10,000 kilometers with the Volkswagen Amarok. BITDI 154 kilowatt style 4Motion. It has a really long name, but it's quite a good Bakkie. There you have it. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this content, and we'll see you in the next one.
Cars.co.za. Not only is Cars.co.za the best place to find your dream car, but it's also the easiest place to sell your current car. Check out the sell car section on our main website. Simply list your car's details and all of our dealers will take bids on your car. You just choose the highest price. Boom, your car's gone. On to your next one. Right, thanks very much for watching the video. Okay, I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm finished now.
God.
All our Silos and Archies deserve insurance that pays out.